But as a whole, Stephen A., it would be hard-pressed for you to say, having covered the game as long as you have, to say that there are not more skilled players, guys that can shoot, dribble, and do multiple things today than they were 20, 30 years ago. It's just not true.
Let's talk about skill. If you could pick just one skill to have in the NBA, what would it be? Is it shooting from beyond the arc, the ability to break down defenders, or perhaps the vision to make jaw-dropping passes? From three-point shooters like Steph Curry to playmaking giants like LeBron James, the game has changed fast, and with that, the skills needed to dominate the NBA have evolved. But there's one skill set that doesn't get enough love, a skill that translates to every NBA era, and that's touch, particularly touch around the rim. When we talk about finishing around the rim, it's not just about being strong enough to dunk on someone or having the hops to finish over defenders. It's about touch, that soft finesse that allows you to score in traffic, adjust mid-air, and finish in a way that even the best defenders can't contest. When we think about Nikola Jokić, we talk about his passing, his IQ, and his ability to control the game at his own pace. But what makes him truly unstoppable isn't just his size or brains, it's his touch around the rim. Jokić doesn't need to overpower you. He doesn't need to outjump you. He just needs a sliver of space, and his soft, almost effortless finishes make him one of the best interior scorers we've ever seen. It's the way he manipulates defenders. He'll give you a slight fake, get you off balance, and then float in a one-handed push shot with either hand like it's nothing. He's perfected these awkward slow-motion finishes that seem impossible to contest because he releases them from unpredictable angles. And what's crazy is that these aren't lucky shots. His touch is so refined that these are high-percentage looks for him. He doesn't need speed. He doesn't need elevation. He just needs the ball in his hands and an inch of space to work with. Now, if we're talking about the greatest touch in NBA history, you can't have that conversation without mentioning Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He wasn't just dominant, he was methodical. Every move he made was about positioning, patience, and precision. And of course, his skyhook remains the single most unstoppable shot the game has ever seen. People always talk about how unguardable the skyhook was, but what made it special wasn't just the height of the release, it was the touch. Kareem had the ability to float the ball in from almost any angle, softly kissing it off the glass or swishing it clean. That's a level of precision that very few big men have ever had. He wasn't a brute force finisher. He didn't dunk on defenders like Shaq or overpower them like Giannis. His game was about balance and finesse. He could catch the ball, take a single step, and roll it off his fingers with perfect spin. That level of soft touch allowed him to sustain dominance for 2 full decades, outlasting younger, stronger opponents simply because he had a skill they couldn't stop.
Unstoppable shot ever made in basketball.
The skyhook, to this day, nobody's ever replicated a shot.
I just think he's simply amazing in how he took a shot and just mastered it, and nobody can duplicate it.
But what if I told you one of the greatest examples of touch around the rim belongs to a guy best known for shooting from 30 feet? Now, when you think of Steph Curry, your mind probably jumps straight to his three-point shooting. But here's the thing, Curry's finishing around the rim is one of the most underrated aspects of his game. People don't realize how elite Curry is around the basket. He's 6 feet 2 inches and doesn't have crazy athleticism, yet he's one of the best small guards ever at scoring in the paint. And the reason, that same insane touch that makes his threes so deadly, also makes him an elite finisher. His signature move? The scoop layup. Curry's mastered this shot to where he doesn't need to get all the way to the rim. He just flicks the ball up high off the backboard with touch, and it drops in. And it's not just flash. He uses this to extend his range inside, finishing over shot blockers that should have a clear advantage over him. Curry's scoop layup is a masterclass in touch, but there was an entire era, in the mid-2000s, when guards had a similar deadly weapon in their bag. The floater.
He kind of taught me that, this beautiful soft touch, full speed, stop at a dime. The bigs are coming.
Before spacing took over the league, the paint was a war zone. You had 7-foot rim protectors, just waiting to send your shot into the third row. Driving to the basket wasn't just about speed, it was about having a counter once you got there. That's where the floater came in. Tony Parker was one of the best at this. He wasn't the biggest, and he wasn't the most athletic, but he had this one-handed teardrop that would float just out of reach of shot blockers. He'd come off a pick, see a big man waiting, and instead of challenging at the rim, he'd drop in a floater from 5 to 10 feet away. It was automatic. And this wasn't just a once-in-a-while move. This was Parker's go-to. He built his entire scoring package around the floater and spin move, and it made him one of the best finishing guards of his era. Defenses knew it was coming, but they still couldn't stop it. Then you had Steve Nash, who took the same concept, but added even more craft to it.
There's that little floater, little running, one-footer, it's almost like a little jump shot, and he gets the...
He wasn't as explosive as Parker, but his ability to control pace and manipulate defenders made him just as dangerous. Nash's floater was more unpredictable. He had these one-footed runners. He would come off a pick and roll and freeze you because the threat of the pass, and just when you thought he was bottled up, he'd rise up like a mini Dirk. His ability to control timing, angles, and touch made him nearly impossible to stop once he got in close range. It's about feel, control, and precision. What's incredible about finishing around the rim with touch is that it's a skill set that transcends eras. Whether you're talking about the finesse of Kareem in the 70s, George Gervin's smooth finger rolls in the 80s, the crafty layups of Tony Parker in the 2000s, or the modern-day creativity of players like Jokic and Curry, the ability to finish with soft touch has always been a game changer. We're seeing guys like Jalen, Brunson, and Tyrese Maxey keep this skill alive in different ways. Brunson uses footwork, patience, and elite touch to score over bigger defenders in the paint, while Maxey combines his blazing speed with high arcing floaters that seem to drop in effortlessly. In an era dominated by three-point shooting, their ability to finish inside with finesse proves it's still one of the most valuable skills in basketball. Whether it's a hook, floater, a finger roll, or a scoop shot, this skill has stood the test of time. It separates the good from the great. It's not a flashy skill, and you won't see it on highlight reels the same way a poster dunk or deep three gets attention. But if you look at some of the best players in NBA history, they all mastered the art of touch. Speaking of skill, click here to figure out why basketball players from this region is so good at basketball. It's deeper than you think.